Hello world, and welcome to this edition of Tech on Fire with Blaze and Blaze Stewart, Architect and Intellect. And today we're going to be looking at Azure from a different angle. We're going to be using Azure as a gaming platform where we can connect to Azure and stream the results back to our local desktop and use Azure as a gaming platform. Hi guys, today I wanted to explore a topic on Azure that's not typically what one might use Azure for, but it's just something fun to do, and that is to use Azure for gaming. And by gaming, I'm talking about using it as a remote gaming service. So what I want to do is walk through what you might do to set up a gaming platform on Azure and show you some of the things that you can do to optimize it. Now, your mileage may vary depending on what you try to do and other factors that are involved in this. My experience with this has been less than stellar, but it's still playable. So I'm going to try to get the virtual machine up and running and walk you through what I did to make that virtual machine work. And then I want to play a game on it just to show you that it is possible depending on what you do, your internet connection, the game you're playing, and a lot of other factors. But let's just jump right in and I'll show you what I did to create the VM and how I got everything set up on it. And then we will then use a game that I like to play, Starcraft, and we will load that up and stream it remotely from my local desktop while it's actually being played up on a VM in Azure. Okay, now I want to show you how to create the resource to run the games on Azure. So this is pretty easy to do. It's just creating a virtual machine. So the first thing I'm going to do is type in Windows 10. If you don't have Windows 10 available, you can run many games on Windows Server, which would be fine. Some games won't install on that, so it just depends on what your context will allow for. Some won't allow for you to run Windows 10 in your context, depending on your licensing that you have available. I have it available, so I can run it. So I'm going to click Create, and I can then use a new resource group. I can use an existing one. I can go, create one called Gaming if I wanted to, and I can call it my, gaming rig or something like that for the name. Now you want to select a region that's geographically close to you so that you can minimize the amount of latency that you have. The image is fine because I already chose that. The next thing is to choose an appropriate size. You can come over here and choose a VM that has a GPU associated with it. So I'm going to unselect general purpose and select GPU and click select. And non-premium storage VMs, these are all available to me. I have the NC series and the NV series. NCs use Kepler-based GPUs from NVIDIA, and these are using Tesla-based CPUs from NVIDIA. Either way, you can choose one of those. Your performance may vary depending on which one you use. So NV6 would probably be fine, or NC6 would be fine too. I'm going to choose NV6, but I'm not actually going to create this because I've already created a VM. It's fairly beefy VM, 6 CPUs, 56 gigs of RAM. That's probably more than enough to run most games in terms of just CPU. Now, your mileage may vary depending on the GPU demands of the game. The K series GPUs are a little older, so you're probably not going to get all the RTX stuff that's available. And all the beautiful ray tracing technology that's available and a lot of that. But if you can live without that, then this might actually work. Don't be too shocked by the price here because that's $832 a month if I ran this 24/7. If I shut it off when I'm not using it, then I'm not going to be billed for it. So if I game very little, which I don't tend to game a lot, in a given month, maybe a couple of hours because I've been doing a lot of other things as of late, but I still like it. And so maybe that might be worth it. I don't know. And we want to punch in a password for the password. Let me retype that. I'm not sure what I typed in there. And inbound port rules, we're going to leave that as is. I'm going to confirm that this is eligible for my licensing. I can do this. If not, choose a server V and use that licensing, which is included in the price of the VM. So disks are fine. I'm going to leave that as is. I'm going to disable the NIC here, NIC NSG that is, and make sure that you have a public IP address associated with it. And so that way you have a IP address you can connect to, because we're going to be streaming the results from the virtual machine over the internet to my local box so I can game using remote gaming here. I don't need anything else on this tab. I can disable boot diagnostic. So if you want that, you can leave it on. This is probably okay. Something you might want to turn on is just auto shutdown, just in case you forget to turn it off and you don't get billed in the nose. You can set this to shut down at, say, I don't know, 10 o'clock at night. I don't know, whatever your bedtime is, and it just shuts down the VM, and you don't get billed for it, for accidentally leaving it on or something like that. But something just you can do. It doesn't cost anything to do that, and it can actually save you a lot of money. So click if you don't need taggings or extensions, that's fine. Don't need tags, and then hit review, and then click create once the validation passes, and then that will work on creating a virtual machine for you. So I'm not going to actually create this one. I've already created it, and because I've already created it, I don't really need to recreate it. So it's going to cost me $1.15 an hour to run that particular VM. Other VMs will cost more or less, just depending on the size of the VM you choose. I'm going to not create this one since I've already done it, but I'll show you how to set everything up once you've got your VM created. After your virtual machine creates, let's connect to this guy. So I've got this gaming rig right here, and this is my virtual machine that I created. It's in another resource group that I created, blaze-net-2. But in any case, it doesn't really matter that you could put it in any resource group. I've got a fairly beefy VM for this, but I'm going to connect to it using RDP because that's what we need to do here. So I'm going to download the RDP file, and I'm going to pop this guy open, and it's going to ask me to connect. And you will want to use more choices. I already logged in with this, but you can use a different account right here. It's going to say put in your email address. Just put in the username you supplied and the password you supplied, and click connect. And then that's going to connect you to that machine. So once you're connected, there's a few things that we need to do here to get this thing ready to game on. So the first thing I need to do is get the drivers installed. So if you go over to your device manager and you pull up your device manager, you'll see display adapters. The first thing we need to do is disable this Microsoft HyperV video. Just if mine's already disabled, but you right click and disable it right here where this says enable device, and that will force the physical hardware to use the physical GPU, which I have two on this particular machine, the Tesla M60s. If I would have gone with another VM, it might have had just one GPU. But in any case, it's going to force the physical hardware not to use that virtual hardware right here that this was providing. This is provided by RDP, but this one is provided by HyperV, which is what is running under the hood here. That by disabling that, it's going to force the operating system to use the NVIDIA GPUs, which we want. So after you do that, next thing we need to do is get the video drivers installed. So it's going to install some drivers by default, but in any case, what we need to do is get the video drivers for this particular card. So you can go to nvidia.com and get the latest. Come over here to drivers, and you want to select the product type. You want data center or Tesla right here, and choose the series that corresponds to your video drivers. We saw ours was an M60s, so I've got an M class right here. And it's defaulting to M60, but there's other ones available. And then I can choose my operating system, which I'm running Windows 10, and that's fine. And you can search, and then you click download. It's going to ask me if I want to supply information. You can skip that and just download it. And once it's downloaded, it'll show up in your downloads folder. So I downloaded it twice already, so you can then run that installer, and it will install the video drivers. So the video drivers are installed, everything's good there. The next thing we need to do is get a sound driver, because by default, the hardware on the VM doesn't have sound associated with it. It's a virtual machine running in the cloud. There's really no need for sound unless you're doing like an RDP session, which it uses virtual sound through RDP. But if you're going to game on this, we need some kind of virtual sound card installed. So you just Google, search for virtual sound card, and you'll see this one called VSC Virtual Sound Card from E2E Soft, and just download that, and you can install it, and that will install on your machine. It will walk through the installer, and it will install just fine. So once you have those two things installed, that's all the drivers we have to install. Now the next thing we need to do is get another client installed, because RDP uses its own network stack and its own stack for graphics and sound, we need to use something that's not going to supply that. So I'm going to use Tight VNC here because Tight VNC will work for this purpose. Other folks might want to use something like TeamViewer or some other software like that. I've had mixed results with TeamViewer on Azure, so I just prefer to use this because it's simple. You can download this, install it, and it will install as a service. And once you install that, then it's ready to use. So I should have that running right here. So Tight VNC is already installed, and once you've gone through that installer, it should be ready to go. You're going to have to supply it a password, which I've already done for this. So I've got the graphics driver installed, I've got the virtual sound card installed, and I've got Tight VNC installed. Now I need to disconnect from from RDP and connect through VNC. So I'm going to go ahead and close out my browser here, and I'm going to go down here and disconnect. And now I'm going to pull up Tight VNC and go in this way. So I've already got the IP pulled up there. It's going to prompt me for the password I supplied when I installed this, and now I have Tight VNC installed. And I'm connecting through Tight VNC. So I'm going to type in the password I supplied here, and that should pull up my desktop here. So now that I've got my drivers installed, my sound card installed, everything's good that way, I need to change the resolution for this. Now, if you go over to display settings, you're going to see that you probably don't have the ability to use 16:9 resolutions. These are all 4:3 resolutions, ratio anyway. To do that, we're going to have to get a piece of software called Crew, which I've already downloaded here, but you can download this. It's called Change Resolution Utility. And this is a little utility that allows you to change the resolution on your monitor for non-standard resolutions or resolutions that aren't defaulted out of the box for your particular virtual monitor, whatever that might be. And this one is only supporting 4:3 ratio resolutions, like 800 by 600 or 1024 by 768. So I downloaded this little utility, and you can come over here and run it. And you run Crew right here, and this one will have a resolution available to you. So you want to click Add right here, and you can then choose a standard resolution. I'm going to choose 1920 by 1080 as the resolution right here at 60 hertz, and then I'm going to click OK. Now once that runs, it's going to enable that on the menus. It should enable it on the menu right here. If I come over here to display settings, I should be able to select 19. I should be able to choose that resolution. If not, we might have to do this right here. You have to run this little utility, restart 64, and then that's going to restart the driver. If it doesn't show up on the menu, you can click that right there, and a little script will start. And then if you get this error, graphics driver restarted, just click exit. And now I have a 16:9 resolution set. I'm running at 1080p now for my resolution on the physical hardware versus using the virtual, any kind of virtual driver or anything like that. Now it's showing up. Revert. Yeah, that's what I want to do. Now it's showing up in the resolutions there. So that's good. Good. So now that we have the resolution set and we have installed all of our drivers, you can install Steam. So Steam is the kind of the secret sauce to making this all work. So if you don't have a Steam account, you can go out to Steam and get Steam right here. You can install Steam, either from the Microsoft Store, or you can download it from Steam itself right here. And Steam is just the client's utility that we need to get the remote set up so that we can enable our game streams back to our local development box or laptop or whatever it might be that we want to game from. So once you get Steam downloaded, you can install that. It only takes a few seconds to do that. You might have to sign up for an account if you don't already have it, but I already ran Steam set up and it's already been running. I think we saw the little pop-ups for it already. And so we have Steam running right there. So with Steam, you log into it, and then you can have games available to you. So Steam is a way to not only buy games, but it also enables you to launch games as well, even games that aren't from Steam. So on my Steam library, I really don't have that many games that I've actually bought from Steam. These are the ones that I've bought from Steam. I have Counter-Strike, I have Lord of the Rings Online, Payday, Trackmania, and Unturned, which are just a bunch of games over the years I've bought with Steam. Since I started using it, probably 12 or 13 years ago. In any case, these are the ones I can play. Now, Starcraft is the one that is not from Steam. So for this particular game, I basically just set up Steam to be able to launch it, and I just set up a shortcut here. But I could also install Trackmania right here too. So the trick to getting this to work is going over here to Steam and going to Settings, and then going over here to Remote Play, and then checking Enable Remote Play. So if you've done that on the machine, on the remote machine, which is my local box here, I should be able to launch Steam right here. And if I go over here to launch my Steam client, now over here on my Steam client, if I go to Library, I should be able to see the games on the remote right here. And it's going to give me a stream option because I've enabled the remote client on the other end now. And now that I have StarCraft installed, I'm not going to show you how to install StarCraft, but you can install games and you set the shortcuts up. You should be able to stream these back to your local box. Okay, let's live large and let's start streaming StarCraft now. So this is we're streaming from the virtual machine on Azure back to my local environment here, and I'm doing screen recording obviously to record the screen output here. But this is StarCraft running on the Azure VM and streaming the results back to my local desktop here. So I'm gonna go ahead and log in, and probably, cause I think it just logged off of this, like a minute ago. So yeah, I'll log in with this account, and this, looks okay. It's not the most vibrant, immersive gaming experience ever. There's anytime you see a rapid screen change, you might see some compression artifacts or things like that. It's not terrible, but it's not the best gaming experience. Like I said, you can definitely play games on this, and this particular game has some caveats to it. It's not the best animation, but if I was to play like Trackmania or a game like that, that one tends to work really, really well. And different games are gonna do better than others. Just depends on the game itself. And this particular game, I've tried it many different times, and this one, it's playable. So let me just show you that I'm not, smoke and mirrors here. It's loading up my game, and it's me against the computer. If I was playing with people or something like that, it'd just be fun to do. Let's queue up some SCVs here and build a few. It gets the job done. It's not real laggy. I was pleasantly surprised with the first time I ever did this, and just how decent it was for just playing. It's not, again, like I said, the fastest gaming experience or the most immersive or the most glitzy in terms of eye candy, but the animation is pretty decent, and it does move around. It's pretty responsive, and it's better than what you might expect given what I'm actually doing here with an Azure VM that's really not even intended for this kind of purpose, but it's a non-conventional use for something on Azure. And if you're not really playing a lot of games, it's can be very economical if you don't game as much as, say, like hardcore gamers do, and things like that. But in any case, it's a fun way to use Azure in a non-conventional way. So hopefully you've learned something, and I'll post a link to all the things in the mentioned in this, to the sound driver and to the change resolution utility and other things like that that will help you get your gaming rig on Azure set up and ready to use. If you like this content, please consider visiting us online at www.wintellect.com, and there you can find about services that Wintellect offers, including training and consulting services. Also, please consider subscribing to this channel by clicking on the subscribe button and clicking the bell icon to get notifications when new content becomes available, and also comment down below. You can also follow me on Twitter at TheOneMule, and also follow Wintellect on Twitter at WintellectNow or at Wintellect. We are constantly posting things about Azure-related technologies and things related to software development. You can also reach us by email at consulting@winelect.com. Until next time, thank you.